Hey all, welcome back. Hey, so tonight I figured I'm going to hack a little bit on the material design and Xaml project, but that in a moment. I'm a little worn out today, so I've got my Mountain Dew to hopefully keep me going, but I may quit early as soon as the caffeine and energy wears out. But first, something exciting. So there was updates that went out this week. Some good, some bad. Specifically, Get Kraken 8.7.0 released. And if people are interested, you can check out all of the cool features inside of it. But there is one in here that I want to highlight: patches. Now, I've done a bunch of videos in the past on Git and Git Kraken specifically, but here, let me just show this one off real quick. I don't know. Reset mixed, right? Give me some pending changes. Okay, so I got some pending changes. Doesn't matter what they are, they're things. Inside of Git, a patch file is if you wanted to basically, we'll say, take a commit or set of commits and build them up into an individual file that you could send to somebody. This is how you do it. And normally making a patch file requires me opening up Bing and then searching for the syntax for git create patch or git whatever the command is, because I can never remember it. I use it so seldom. But there are a handful of times where I found it very helpful to effectively build up that diff file. Now you can just come right in here and go create patch, and then you save it and you're done. Gotta use Bing for those Bing bucks. Yes, absolutely. I actually love the Bing bucks. My Bing bucks commonly turn into Amazon dollars, which then spend like real money, which is awesome for me. But absolutely love the fact that they added in the new patch file stuff into Git Kraken. Bing bucks equals free Xbox. Yeah, that's about right. I think for a lot of people, it's pretty much on par. But absolutely love the patch file support that got added. One other thing, this is more aesthetically pleasing. I mean, I find it more aesthetically pleasing. It looks prettier to me. So the new tab thing got a little bit of a makeover. And then if you're like me, you'll note not all of my side things are here. Finally, good new tab page. Yes, absolutely. You can also, on this left panel, you can actually turn off the stuff that you don't want to see. Like, for example, if I'm looking at a repo like this that has a huge number of like GitHub issues, yeah, sometimes it's nice to go through these and search them, but dear heavens, that just, in my opinion, that if I want to search those, I'll do it out on GitHub. So right-clicking on these headers will let you turn stuff off. The only thing, I don't know why local is shown, because apparently you can never turn local off, which I don't know why. I mean, if you turn the local section off, I mean, what are you doing in Git Kraken? But for a lot of these other ones, like I tend to be solo. I don't use the Teams functionality inside of Git Kraken a lot, so off, right? I debate about, submodules. We don't have any submodules. Turn that off too. Boom, gone. The other cool thing, and I don't know whether I'm just blind, but I noticed it when I was customizing this. They've got a nice little shortcut to all of my GitHub actions. I didn't see that in the release notes, and I don't know if this was a prior version and I just now discovered it, but like, I got a quick and easy way to jump right to my GitHub actions, which I think is rather slick. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Is workspaces still only for GitHub? I think this release added GitLab to the list. Something in the back of my mind is, maybe I'm getting it confused with this task list for GitLab. It might be. I'd probably have to go back and parse the notes. I don't recall. I know they've been slowly expanding it. I can't say for sure. ADO user still in the desk. Yeah. ADO is one of those, it's almost like on one hand, I would love to see a lot better integration with Git Kraken for it, but I also know that so much is being pushed to GitHub. It's like, yeah, Microsoft would love to, well, I think what Microsoft really wants is to have the one system, and right now they have two systems, and even though GitHub is the one that's getting a lot of the investments, Azure DevOps, GitHub is not feature parity with a lot of the functionality in Azure DevOps. I'll say that. There's a lot of stuff that just frankly isn't there, or you have to do things differently. Like, I personally think GitHub Actions are awesome. Like, I love them. But like templated pipelines, there isn't a direct equivalent. Now, you can get the same type of thing where, hey, I want to reuse my YAML and this, that, and the other. Great, you can do all that, but you have to kind of restructure your thinking about how you're going to do it a little bit differently. So yeah, GitHub Actions doesn't have a direct equivalent for Azure DevOps templates. So, but again, don't hear that there's no way to, like, that you end up like copying your YAML. Absolutely don't do that. But there are different ways to approach the same problem, because the templates in Azure DevOps were largely around not having to redo your YAML, right? I want to parameterize my stuff out, gen this stuff up. GitHub Actions takes a slightly different approach to it, with the end goal of being the same thing of, hey, I want a pipeline. I don't want to reuse I want to reuse the same bit of YAML or build logic in multiple places. Great. And in a lot of ways, I like the GitHub Actions syntax better. I find it a lot shorter, a little more obvious, with the exception of the Golem trigger, which always makes me laugh. Most of it makes a lot of sense. So, for what it's worth. Okay, now on for something else. So this was happy update number 1. This one made me very excited. You'll note this came out on July 13th. The problem is July 12th happened. Okay. And July 12th, things went boom. So specifically, this one cropped up. There was a pull request that came in, and I'll just go show it real quick. There was a nice little pull request that came in. It's closed now. Yeah. So, wonderful Juan Carlson. I hope I'm getting that right. Went through. I'm a horrible speller. Fully admit it. There were typos in, we'll say, a couple files. Just a couple. And was kind enough to go through, submit a pull request, cleaning up a bunch of that stuff. But then the build failed. And it wasn't really clear why the build started failing when, yes, there were changes to code, but these were typo corrections. And more importantly, the failures in here, if you, let's make that bigger a little bit. If we look at some of the build failures, it's duplicate member. We're seeing, oh, all of this generated stuff has a duplicated member. And his comment on the pull request was, hey, don't really understand why the build's failing. You know, I don't think I did it. And I looked at it, the changes in his pull request, because sometimes people make, what seems like a minor change that's actually a big deal. And I looked over it and I'm like, I don't see anything that would even remotely come close to causing this. I'm like, I know what this generator is. This is the one from my Xaml test library. Oh, like, I know what it's doing. Why is it doubling up? And so I then decided to do a little spelunking. And lo and behold, on the WPF repo, someone else commented that they ran into a similar issue, only with the community toolkit MVVM. And then slowly but surely, other people online started reporting similar problems. And what really shocked me when I looked at the GitHub Actions history, so if we go back here, so for example, like this icon update, right? It runs on a schedule very consistently. And it really doesn't fail that much. But it's just ding, 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 fail. And I went, wait, what? What? Like, that caught me off guard. This pipeline never fails. Well, rarely fails. And then the pull request one, right? Like, some of these things fail legitimately, but like, for example, this icon update. These merges should never fail. Like, this is auto-generated code adding members to an enum. Like, the last time this thing failed due to an auto-generation bug was like back when we had a casing issue, and that's been like a year and a half. And I start looking, I'm like, oh, hang on, lots of green, a couple reds because, they're pull request verification. So sometimes people's pull requests have issues, but usually they fix them. I'm like, hang on. So these ones worked. These ones failed. And I was like, okay, well, let's take a quick look at this. Like, what could possibly be the problem? And I come in here, and where is it? There is a listing of the .NET. Is it 6.0 Yeah. So you'll note this one, 60301. Okay, this one was green. If we go back and pick on one of the red ones, whoop, too many backs. Now we go forward. If we come in and look at like the fixed typos build that failed, if we look at this one, 6.0.30, oh come on, it's in here. I know it is. You just deferred loading. Setup.net. Let's see, that one did the 3041, 50. This one then loaded 60302. I was like, oh, suck. You've got to be joking me. There's no way, right? Like, typically when .NET releases an SDK, it's especially a minor rev. It's like, this isn't a big deal, right? Take the update. Your world will be happy. No, not in this case. In this case, something occurred, and it's still a little unclear to me exactly where the blame lies for this. But looking through the linked pull requests and other related issues that people have found, because this cropped up in a lot of cases, it appears that if you have a WPF project, and if the WPF project uses source generators, the source generators are being executed twice. And as the name implies, if a source generator generates the same file twice, that's going to cause a whole bunch of duplicate members, right? Like source generators, kind of their purpose in life is to generate source. Who would have thunk? So when you get into that situation, everything ends. So this is the current problem that we found ourselves in. And initially, I had gone through one of these guys here. Where was the link to it? Where's the link to it? So I'll drop the link. Like I turned on notifications. So this is one of the hacks that a lot of people ended up doing. So for those people unfamiliar with it, there is a global.json file that you can put. So for example, if you have .NET and you do something like .NET -- list SDKs, right? Like I've got a bunch of SDKs installed. So I've got 301, 302, and then I've got a preview build because I tend to run the Visual Studio previews. So this one often comes with VS Preview for me. Great. But when you're compiling a project, which one, like when I do a .NET build, which one does it pick? Now, by default, what it's going to do is it's going to grab latest. Now, latest gets to be a little ambiguous because it's latest whether you're going to allow previews or not and that kind of thing. But ultimately, what ends up driving which one it's going to pick is this global.json. So if you want to pin yourself to a particular version, say, no, you must have this version of the SDK installed. You must compile with this version. A global.json works. And let's see. I believe there's a great thing from Kathleen, if I'm not mistaken. No, but this is the docs. So for people unfamiliar with it, this is a way of effectively rolling yourself back to an old SDK. You don't need to uninstall the new SDK, but if you want to make sure that your build system, the .NET CLI and Visual Studio and everyone else uses the correct version, you put a global.json at the root of your project and it'll pick it up and work. Great. And then you can do things like, hey, I'm going to specify 6.0.300, but roll forward to the latest feature branch. And the problem is, most of the time, this is kind of what you want. You usually want to roll forward to the latest feature, which is what all of the build systems usually default to, which means the build that worked on Monday didn't work on Tuesday, which just was exciting beyond belief. Now, there is a pull request this guy. I'll link this as well. And I'm not 100% confident in this because I haven't spent enough time looking at the MS build logs to know for sure. Again, I don't know quite who's to blame for this. All I can say for certain is WPF projects with source generators and .NET SDK 6.0.302, your generators run twice. I can say that for certain. That's obviously bad. And I have a sinking suspicion, I have a hunch I know why it would be limited or likely limited to WPF or related frameworks. WPF and a lot of the XAML-based frameworks, they do a double compile. So WPF, to compile your XAML down into BAML, which is what actually gets put into the assembly, it does makes a copy of your CS proj and executes it. And that's how it ultimately uses that in order to compile your XAML down. So you kind of end up getting two builds. It's not quite the same in both cases, but it does effectively, from an MS build perspective, build twice, right? Even if it's building two separate things. And I have a suspicion that that is the cause of why this is occurring. Now, I don't know what happened in the SDK that would have triggered this. And this fix here, you'll note, is going into the .NET, or the WPF project. So specifically, it's being brought into a targets file, which I'm pretty confident is what is pulled in. What's up, Robert? I'm pretty sure this targets file is what gets pulled in when you're building a WPF project, which is great, fine, wonderful. But so the solution that this pull request is suggesting is they are adding a new MS build target that's called remove duplicate analyzers. They run it just before core compile, and they go through. So this line here takes everything that was in the analyzer set and removes it. So this analyzer set at the end of this is empty. But before they clear it out, they say, well, let's make a new set. Let's grab a distinct list of analyzers. Keyword distinct, so things don't get doubled up. And then let's go ahead and add those back in to the analyzer collection. So make a distinct list, clear the original set, and then repopulate the set with the distinct set. And apparently this fixes it. And again, my suspicions are the fact that WPF has that double compile thing going on is because one, the .NET SDK has a large swath of tests. Like there's a lot, which is usually why it's pretty safe to take updates. It's hard for them to break stuff. However, it would not shock me to find that there were no tests covering the way WPF effectively does the double compile thing inside of their build targets. It would not shock me to know that was not part of some integration suite somewhere, because I've seen it cause bugs before. And I'm just spilling all over myself. One moment. I'll make myself look like an idiot. So that moment may already have passed. So I think what we're going to do, I had initially spilt Mountain Dew. I know you should not, the rule is you shouldn't waste Mountain Dew. Accidents do happen though. So I think what we're going to do, rather than waiting for this, is I think we are going to put this into the project. I had initially gone, here, let's throw this all away. Throw it all away. I had initially jumped on the bandwagon of the global.json file fix. And so I slapped that in here and made that work. But I think we're going to clean that up, because here, let me make that a little bigger. I don't necessarily like the idea of just pinning to an older SDK. That feels wrong at a number of levels. And initially it's like, well, I'll pin it to an old SDK temporarily. I'm sure a fix is coming. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to actually roll this guy back. So we're gonna start with this, revert commit, do not immediately commit. Okay, so I've got a new branch that I've made called fix build, and we're gonna come in here and we're gonna change a couple things. So one, this is reverting this, so I want to unstage that line. So we're gonna keep this. So initially I changed it from 6x to 6.0.301. And so we are going to go back to just 6x and say, grab me the latest 6x, because that's what 6x, yeah, that's hard to say. Because the setup.net action, all it does is it will grab the latest version that matches this. Great, perfect. And then we're going to come down here, and initially we had set roll forward to disable. We're going to go let that go back to latest minor. And there's actually one other issue with this that I realized when I was looking at all of this. We're going to do that maneuver. Is the global.json is expected to have all three versions, and we really do want to strongly suggest the 6.0.300. Though now that I say this, I am wondering if we actually need this at all. The one nice thing that it does do is it does give a nice prompt if anybody fires up the solution and doesn't have the right version of the SDK installed. Like Visual Studio will prompt you and say, hey, install, you know, ye version of SDK. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And then I think what I want to do, I don't have a directory build targets, do I? I do not. So I think we're going to add one. We're going to add one. And actually, let's just do it here. So we're going to go here, open containing folder. And just copy, paste, directory build dot targets. So these directory.build guys are magical files that automatically get picked up by MS Build. So we're just going to do this. Oh, targets. Yeah, change it. Boom. Okay. And the only subtle difference about the difference between a props and a targets file is effectively at what point in the include process it goes. So you could think of props as coming first, usually to set up variables, and targets comes at the end when it's actually building up the dependency tree and the targets that it's going to run through. Thankfully, the schema for both of these looks pretty much the same. Hey, you. What is this froggy picture? Oh, Copilot has a... Hey, that's cool. I don't know if people can see that. Hang on. Zoom it. I didn't know this, but when you install Copilot, apparently you get a little... To me, that looks like a frog. I don't know what they're going for with that. It looks like a froggy. Huh. Interesting. I didn't even know this was a thing. Huh. Cool. Okay, so let's grab this guy, a picture of you new AI overlords. What's disappointing is I've been working in an environment where I have been able to use Copilot for the last several days, so I haven't got to enjoy my usual giggling of watching it both succeed spectacularly and fail in new and exciting ways. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things. So I'm very intentionally giving this thing a different name. Simply because knowing that there is a target being called remove duplicate analyzers being added to the SDK, I do not want mine accidentally overwriting it. So if both of ours get run, it's just slightly wasteful. It's not going to be a big deal. So if and when the updated SDK comes out and it has the remove duplicate analyzers in it, assuming that other PR merges, it'll run, I'll run, we'll both distinct the list. Yeah, we're distincting the list twice. I would rather that. How's your UWP board game app coming? Ooh, thank you for asking. It is. I haven't spent. So unfortunately, it's worked just well enough that I've been using it for our D&D sessions. And I've wanted to go back and put more into it, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it. It's worked just well enough. There's a few, we'll say, rough edges around it. If anybody is interested, I'm happy to share the repo. If anybody's interested, bear in mind, this is very much, it is built for me with a target audience of me. So if anybody's interested here, the one thing I did do is I did axe the UWP client in favor of a WinUI client. So the tablet Win is the WinUI client. So I re-implemented it in WinUI 3. And so that works well. And then the Maui app that I was rolling for the remote, I actually did it as part of a Blazor app to play with some web stuff, and it works rather well. I will say, for the simplisticness that I was doing here, again, be aware there's a lot of kind of like debug level code still sitting in here, so I would not take it as an example of what good looks like, because some of it is there for my learning. Okay, so I think we're going to go there. Stage. Stage. I think I want, this is the end result that I want, right? 300, latest minor. There. Yeah. Updating with target to clean up analyzers. So push this guy here and get that going, and then there's some pull requests I want to clean up. Let's see. So I want to do. Where's my? Got too many. Here we are. Boop. Boop. Origin master. Come on. Get cracking. Don't make me look bad. Okay. Was the push just too slow? You rely on... Wow. This used to not be slow. Somebody's going to be getting a bug report from me. Last time I had issues with this Windows being slow, it's because... yeah, if you did the drag and drop to where it would know the source and target, it was pretty fast. Like, you'd still see the ... as it was loading, and in this case, it's doing ... loading almost assuredly because there's, we will say, a few forks of this repository, but it's usually been pretty fast. Yeah, there's only 3,000 forks for it to load. What's the problem? There's only 3,000 of them. Give or take, I don't know, approximately 3,000. 3,033, in fact, according to GitHub. Okay, and so we want to add on to this so that people fixing with the MS build targets. Boom, and create pull request. Do the drag and drop every time. Yeah, so we're gonna let this guy go, and I'm hoping that, because part of what bit me and what I think was killing like the icon update on this latest one is, I believe, yeah, because the issue is there was now a disjoint between what all of my actions were doing, which were just set to 6x, and what my global.json was. So some of these were breaking because I revved one of my YAML files and my global.json and didn't realize I would have to rev every single one of my YAML files. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I think this will likely fix, putting that guy back will likely fix a lot of these things. Okay. Well, we're waiting for that guy to go. Close, close. Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. Close you. Close you. Close, close. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So we have. Wait. Okay. So let's go back because there was a couple of these pull requests that I wanted to take a look at. I think a lot of these got cleaned up. Got it. This looks like just commented on. We may want to, we'll see. I'll come back and look at that. There's nothing new and actionable on this one. Okay, this one though, I believe I saw commits come in on earlier. So for those people who recall before, this is the ability to do basically, oh, he updated. Wow. Okay. So, and he redid all of this stuff. So this is the ability to do fractional rating bits. Oh, that is slick. I'm just watching these videos. Okay. Now, for those people who recall last week when we talked PRs on this one of the comments that kind of came up was the idea that when you have a rating bar like this where you want to show like 3.2 stars, my opinion is because rating stars, like if we just take the star rating one on 0 through 5, right? Most websites where you see that interaction, the user picks an integer value of 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, whatever, right? But we display but there are places where when displaying the rating, you might display the average, so you want to display fractional. So there was a bit of discussion on this PR last time about, well, I like the idea of enabling fractional bits, but user interactive and fractional bits, those two things together, my suspicion is that's a low use case, that most people who have fractional bits are going to set this control to read only. That's my theory. Let's see. Another odd thing I noticed today was with Roslyn analyzers taking up 13 gigs of RAM. Now that's interesting. And when you say Roslyn analyzers, are you talking about just the built-in ones when you turn the analyzer level up? So there is a thing coming. C#. Incremental source generators. So I'll pull these out. This is Andrew Locke. I don't think they show it here, do they? Do they show incremental? I don't think they do. This page looks old. So there is a thing called incremental source generators. This is source generator. Yeah, incremental generators in net 6. So there is a second level, because I've done other posts on just source generators in general. But rather than just doing the regular source generator, there is an incremental generator as well. And the idea here is that incremental generators, they can basically, they declare almost like a transform to your code, but the transform itself is immutable. That way the build system can cache results and try to run as few as possible. Now, with that said, given what I've seen of this SDK release, it's very possible it's all related. So at least in your case, Robert, I'd be curious to check your logs about which version of the SDK is being picked up for your Roslyn analyzers. So easiest way to check is if you have a global.json. The other way you can check is if you just look at the opening few lines of your build logs, it'll list the version right out in front. Because if it's 302, would not shock me currently. Okay, rework the PR based on your comments are a bit more extensive, so grab a Mountain Dew before you read any further. Oh, I'm gonna like this. Nikolai, I got the Mountain Dew. Your videos below impress me. Knock the socks off. Okay. Coercing min max values. Since the wrong values would yield an unusable rating bar. Agreed. Added opt-in functionality for previewing the value before selecting it. Inspiration taken from Slider, cool, but works in hover in this case, which makes sense. Slider is kind of meant to be a drag drop. Ooh, 3.1, Robert. That's interesting. Did you update your Visual Studio too, perhaps? Maybe it's a Visual Studio issue. Let's see. Added opt-in functionality for fractional values. This is done by adding a values increment property of double, which can have a value between double epsilon. For people who are unfamiliar with double epsilon, this is the smallest fractional unit that is representable with a double. Let's see, and 1. So this is effectively a value between 0 and 1 with 0 non-inclusive. That's effectively what this is. A value of 1, which is the default, effectively means that fractional values are disabled. Specifying a value where less than 1, where 1 is not a multiple of said value, works, but this is not really useful. Yeah, I would agree. Perhaps the coercion should ensure that 1 is a multiple of value being set. I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of the idea of letting people... The only thing that scares me is I agree that values of like 0.75, in my opinion, are not useful. However, I've also experienced on the other side of things that if it doesn't really break and it just kind of works if it works in at least a halfway expected manner, even if it doesn't seem useful, somebody always finds a use for the unexpected. Like, the amount of use cases that crop up are astounding. The two opt-in options are independent of each other. One can be enabled without the other and vice versa. Great. Assuming one being the preview and one being the value increments. Added 3 purpose-built multi-value converters and placed them as nested classes in the rating bar class because they are specifically made for that control. Let me know if you normally do it in a different manner. That's probably fine. In some cases, I go as far as to make them internal because I don't want other people using them and then filing bugs against them. But I've also learned that when you do that, you also make it so that people can't like copy and paste your control template and reuse it, which can be a downside there. So I've started to lean towards making them public, but it also means that I check them a little more. But added unit tests for converters, so they can't be that bad if you tested them. So implementation restricts rating bar orientation and flow direction. Sweet. Funny note, the original rating bar does not coerce its value, and thus you can set anything in the value property. This is probably also needed because min max 5 you can effectively with the mouse can effectively not with the mouse at least set the rating bar to 0 stars. With fractional values enabled, I had to change this a bit. So in cases like that, you would typically set min 0 instead of min 1, which then means you can partially select the first star. Select a value between 0 and 1. Because the coercion will eventually give you the 0 value if your mouse is close enough to the left edge of the first. Oh, that's a good point. So if you have it set, your value increment set to 0.5, and you click within 1/4 and 1/2, I assume that rounds to half, and if you click between 0 and 1/4, that rounds to 0. I actually kind of like the idea of being able to go back to the 0. It's actually one of those things that I get annoyed at websites where they don't allow it. Screen captures GIFs of the new opt-in features. Oh, okay, so one thing I will show off, because this is a great piece of software. Screen to GIF. Nothing against what was the one that was used here. They had their, Screen Presso. Nothing against them. Screen to GIF is an awesome piece of software. It is open source on GitHub. It is a WPF app, which is kind of cool. Does a lot of cool stuff. So you can either just install it directly, or I think at one point in time he had a Windows Store version for taking donations. So it looks like it might just be straight sponsorship if people are interested. And the developer's actually quite active too, especially on Twitter. Every time he sees people with issues with it, he will actually chime in and try to help it. Because there are times where like the artifacting on your GIF looks like crap. Not always a screen to GIF fault, and to his credit, there's usually an option or two to set to adjust depending on what you're screenshotting, but the defaults work really well for just screenshotting apps and that kind of thing. And then you don't have to have somebody else's ads on it. So if you ever want to make motion GIFs, screen to GIF, highly recommend it. Okay, original PR text. Oh, that's nice that he left it there. There's all this, there's all this. There was some back and forth. I've reworked the see the updated PR for details. Oh yeah, we're gonna test this. Let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look at the code and then we will see. So you'll note before, especially after my comment, I'm imagining even though, oh, one of the files didn't change. You'll note my viewed things stayed checked. And apparently I didn't. So apparently only some of these things changed. Okay, so we are going to start. I don't know if we care to look at the demo too much. I think we're going to look at the demo by virtue of we're going to fire it up and take a run at it. I mean, I don't know really. Yeah, I don't really care about the demo. We're just going to look at the demo when we run it and see. The value changed. Oh, that is interesting. That is technically a breaking change. Interesting. Oh, wait a minute. This was. We'll check the rating bar control. I don't. Boy, I can't remember. Okay, so let's. Sorry, I gotta back this up a little bit so I can see a little better. Okay, and I'll try to keep my big head out of whatever I'm looking at. Okay, so selected item handler. If not fraction values enabled, basically goes back to the old code. Same with the read only. That's the same if condition with just this much added. There's a slight change here in that it doesn't just bring in the parameter. It says get value at position. Plus percent selected. Oh, I see. This does go back to an int if fractional values are not set. Otherwise, it uses fractional values. Okay. I'm really just curious if that thing did change. So this thing did. Okay, feedback. Should min and max also be doubles instead of ints? I'm just thinking about that. I'm wondering if value is going to be a double, if maybe min and max should also be doubles. I mean, it's the potential for another breaking change. I'm a little less concerned with it being a breaking change because going from int to double, there's an implicit conversion. So source-wise, it is backwards compatible, but is not binary backwards compatible at all. And I say it's only source backwards compatible because there's an implicit conversion from int to double. Register read only is fractional value. Oh, interesting. Okay. Value increment property. Okay. Value increments. Kitzer says, one is exclusive. Hang on, something's wrong with this comment. Sets the value between 0 and 1, both exclusive to enable. Oh, set it to that value to enable default of 1. Fractional values disabled. Got it. So 1 is still a valid value, but it will not be fractional values if it's set to 1. Got it. I just misread that. Okay. And then preview value enabled, simple dependency property, Boolean, defaults to false. Great. That way people can opt into it. Let's see. Base value equals null. Part of me really wants to change this from an equals null to an is null. Not a big deal in this case, because the value is something controlled by us. It's unlike, so the big difference between equals null and is null in C# is null. And this is assuming you are on C# 8 or later. Is null is guaranteed to be a reference equality check to null, whereas equals null depends on context. So equals null may be a reference equality check against null, or if you're using a type that has equality overridden, you may get that. So if you want an actual reference equality to null, previously the recommendation was you use the static reference equals method that exists on object and do reference equals null. Latest recommendation is to do is null, because is a lot shorter than reference equals, and the code looks a lot cleaner. Okay, so if fractional value is disabled, create. See, and this is where I'm wondering. Because like now we're having to upcast min into a double. And I'm really wondering if min and max should be doubles as well. I mean, it seems odd to have a minimum value of, say, like 1.5. That feels weird. But it would not shock me if somebody wanted to set their, like, if somebody wanted to say, well, maybe if I'm going by half-star increments, right? Maybe I want a minimum of 0. Maybe I might want a minimum of 1. Maybe I want a minimum of 1/2. Like maybe I want my minimum to literally be 1 value increment. Maybe I want it to be 0 value increments. Maybe I want it to be a whole integer. Like I can see use cases where min being a double might be helpful. Proper being set here is no longer. So what is going on here? The property being set here is no longer used. If the rating bar and DP was not public, I would have just removed it. Got it. So is within selected value. Got it. So we should probably flag obsolete. Yeah, it's same thing here again. Yeah, and so there's that subtle change of value going from int to double, which again, I'm fine with source level backwards compatibility. Okay, so other question for people that I have. I have an idea for. Here, I'm gonna show it. This sneak preview. So this is a private repository, but it's mine, so it's okay that I show it. You'll note there's nothing in it, so don't get too excited. It's literally an empty repository. But I started writing out an idea that I've tossed around with a few other people for building up a tool that can automatically update your source code. And I'm mostly interested in answering the question, is this something that you would use? So the idea is that oftentimes as a library author, I know exactly what transforms you need to do to your library when you download my update. Because in a lot of cases, some changes, I could script them for you. It would not be hard. Whether I use like a Roslyn analyzer to do some code transformations or whatever, I could likely script it. Okay. I got 1 vote yes. And so the idea is that if a library author put a particular file inside their NuGet package, I'm working with the idea of just putting underneath tools auto up manifest. This manifest would basically declare out a URL where the actual package exists. And so it would then download the package. The package contains all the transforms. You could then use a command line tool to execute it and apply all of those transforms to your code. Obviously, the assumption is that it's under source control. If you don't like something, you could obviously undo it. But that this thing may end up being like an 80% solution, because sometimes it's not obvious what the transform needs to be. Like there are some breaking changes where it's like, I don't know, it kind of is going to depend on your code. But this is an idea I'm tossing around potentially building. Because there's now been a number of cases where me and a couple of friends have gone, man, I really wish I had this tool. It's like we want to make this change, but even if a NuGet update is simple, and it's like, oh, all you have to do is change the name of this one method from A to B, right? That's a very simple change. But when you think about it from the consumer side, if it's not an easy thing for them to like just find and replace all on, like maybe it's a simplistic name or whatever, or it matters on overloads, that is miserably painful on large code bases that may have hundreds, maybe thousands of usages that they have to change. That is not like you have just made your NuGet update really painful, even though it really shouldn't be. So that's the idea behind it, is to hopefully lessen that pain. So like I said, if people have feedback on it, on if this auto up is something that either A, you would use on if it were available, or B, if you are a library author, if you would invest the time to write upgrades for people. The other idea that I had is if the manifest doesn't exist in the NuGet package, I do have the idea of allowing people to specify their own manifest. So, that way if library author doesn't want to do it, but, there's a community around it and somebody wants to say, hey, I put together an update manifest, here's the URI to it, point your stuff at this, because then you can host these packages on GitHub, just in like release artifacts or whatnot, and away they go. So that's the thought and the idea. It's an idea. It's not guaranteed. Again, just my repo consists of one wiki page. It's not a fully thought out idea. Okay, so then this once again is a math.max, and again the cast to int makes me really wonder if maybe min max should be doubles. When fractional values are enabled, the first ring represents min, thus we start. Okay, makes sense. Okay, and here are the converters. These are the interesting ones. So these are internal. Semi-transparent. 26% opacity. Okay. And that's all fine. It's putting together a linear gradient brush. The only thing that gets interesting though, what are the conditions for this? Start point, end point. These are all going to be geared on orientation. Wait. If orientation... See, I'm wondering here... I'm just wondering about potential performance and caching of this brush. Return the actual brush to avoid compiler squiggly line warning. I love the comment. Okay, convert back, not implemented, great. I mean, on one hand, this thing is being somewhat like the converter itself is being cached, so there's only going to be one instance of the converter, which is nice. So preview indicator transform X converter. Because there is something to be said about cached values. Let's see, orientation, or argument out of range, which that would require you to have an orientation that doesn't exist here, which is technically possible. It is technically possible. Some people think that if you define out a case statement for all defined values in an enum, you're good. The thing is, you can actually shove any value you want into an enum, whether there's a value defined for that or a name defined for that value or not. You simply just hard cast. And the runtime and the compiler are happy to let you do it because enums are just named numeric values. That's all they are. They can hold all numeric values. It's just most of the time you're only using the named ones. Which is also why there's a coding guideline that says enum values you should always define as 0th member, because the default value of an enum, like all numerics, is 0. And if you don't give 0 a name, like unknown, default, undefined, whatever, it's very easy to accidentally have that thing crop into your code. Specifically handling the edge cases, is a percent, rating bar. Cool. And that looks fine to me. Let's look at the tests. Let's look at the tests real quick. So this is going directly against the rating bar. And this is just testing the dependency property coercions. Very clean test, I will say that. Very clean. So range act assert pattern. It is using STA fact, which is something that we have in the unit testing, because whenever you are writing a unit test over a UI object, you have to run on a STA thread. And so all this does is extend XUnit to say, hey, when you run this test, the thread that you create needs to have a single threaded apartment state, STA. Min max. And then this is the one I think I got tripped up on before, where I had to look very closely because the -5 confused me for a minute. Sense. Type value converter. Yeah. Wait, what's going on here? Arrange text block value convert. Oh, is there a shared method down lower? Sorry, I gotta look down lower. Yeah. Got it. So there's some extra. With alpha channel, I could have sworn we already had a method for that. I was sworn there was already. Must not be. Yeah, I was like, I could swear I've written this thing before, but oh well. Back up to where we left off, which was about the value converter. Brush is red, yeah. So there, convert as brush, assert equals. Great. Text block. So, and I think I've called this out before. One of the things that I absolutely love on unit tests is naming. If I can read your unit test name and know what's being tested, the condition under which it's being tested, and the expected outcome, it's a good name. So I get all 3 of those from reading this test name, which is perfect. Now, oftentimes I reorder these and this part comes last, but whatever. It's got all the required bits. Clever, is assignable from. So this is asserting that it is some solid color brush. Then a hard cast. Oftentimes I've even cheated and just done an assert true with an is on it. It just doesn't give you as nice of an error message when it fails. But it's a little simpler code to write. And this is good. I normally don't run code coverage metrics on the repo because there is so much going on. Oh, interesting. Hang on. Oh, I just missed that we subtly switched from rating from STA to fact because we are no longer creating a UI controller. We're using a class nested inside of it. That now works. Effective value -20 minus margin. Okay. When fractional values are enabled, orientation is horizontal. This is really clean stuff. I like it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's look here. There's probably not a lot here to see. I'm just going to scan this really quick and make sure that there's no changes in here. But most of these probably work exactly as I would expect. And the indentation on GitHub is hard to read, which is somewhat problematic. Yeah, we're gonna get most of these. Okay, let's test it. Let's test it. So pull requests, we want half rating bar. Check it out. Boom. Grab that. File should disappear. Oh, interesting. I messed up on my branch. Hang on, I just realized I messed up. There's a missing change here that I didn't realize. Control-Shift-S. There it is. The solution file where I added the targets. It's like, man, it should have updated. Oopsie. Before I get too carried away, I'll just double check. Yeah, so the build succeeded, right? Clean up analyze. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna kick that off again, and then we're gonna go back to here. And now, there we go. That's what I was expecting. Reload with the rating bar stuff. Let's take a look at it. Okay. The code looks great. In an ideal situation, we are kind of getting close to getting the milestone out. I'd like to kind of button this guy up and get it done. There's a couple of these things to fix, and I know I have some work out here, and the flipper is still on my radar of, I may punt the flipper for a little bit because I don't like my changes. They work, but they are hackier than I'll get out. Come on, compile. I know I changed. What are you doing? Hello? Oh, you launched. That's why. Rating bar. Okay, so the nice part with the, and it's really hard to see in the dark theme. I really should change this up. Oh, some of these only have, there it is. So the show me the Xaml, this little guy here, so nice, because now I can just poke around and go, okay, well, which which of these rating bars have the fractional value. Now, I can probably guess it's the ones with the fractional value on top. So what is it set to 0.25? Yeah, okay. Oh my eyes. Sorry, I should have warned you. Warning, light theme incoming. Yeah, it is a little awkward, especially with the spin hitting that exact amount. But it's actually rather nice. So I will say this. I don't expect the interaction with decimal places to be the common use case. I really don't. I suspect most people are going to have the users input full values and use the read-only version, because like this is read-only, right? I suspect the fractional value will come with people that also have his read-only set to true. I suspect that will be the common use case. I do like that preview is nice. Oh, that is nice, because there's just a tad, little bit of space on the right of that star. Oh, I like that. Oh, that is gorgeous. Oh yeah. This is great. This is gorgeous. Okay, so couple bits of feedback that I had on here, and I'm wondering, do we just go make the changes? We might. I probably have permission to do so. Let's check. Rating bar. So my first thought is that fractional values and rotation are optional settings, or do they have a bool? I don't recall if the rotation has. I was noticing that too. It would be nice if the rotation were optional, but I don't think it is. And it's been that way for so long. I kind of suspect a lot of people are using the rating bar for display and not for interaction, is my working theory. But I don't actually have metric, like this library doesn't collect metrics or anything. The closest I have is people volunteering their projects. So also worth noting, I'm going to just quick highlight. If you have a project using the material design stuff, there is a page on the wiki called Projects Using Material Design. All I ask is that you add your project in alphabetical order, which is the only fair way that I could think of to do this. But feel free to link your app. Feel free to post screenshots, GIFs, whatever you'd like, right? Like there's some, oh, this one's down here. I should move this one up to the top. This is an A. But people who leverage the material design in their thing, show it off. I don't care if it's free, paid, open source, closed source. This doesn't have to be a link to a repo. This could be a link to a website or whatnot. But I put this here partly to just show off, because I've seen several people put together all kinds of things. So if you want to get an idea of what people have built with it, there should be a place for that. So if you've got a project using material design and you are willing to share a link to it, again, whether that be a repo, a website, whatever, add it here. And like I said, when possible, please just put it in alphabetical order. I didn't want people like fighting over, ordering of who goes first or whatnot. So that was my way of trying to make it fairish, is alphabetical wins. Okay, so let's look at min-max first. I think we go min-max as doubles. Let's do that. I think that is a good, worthwhile change, because we're already making a type change with value. Got to make sure we get these all correct. 1.0. So in case that wasn't obvious, the subtle difference between 1.0 and 5.0, this is how you declare literal doubles versus literal ints. And because property metadata, the default value is object, that matters. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that animation bit. That's what I was opening this for. Yeah, see, it's just a set on a routed event. So the animation, Justin, is not an optional thing. I agree it would be a nice thing to be able to turn off. That is definitely something. I'm not going to require it for the merging of this PR, but that is definitely an enhancement that could be made to this control. That would be nice. Okay. So we're going to do this. Min property changed callback. Main bar coerce value. Oh, that's just going all the way into there. Rebuild buttons. That's just shelling back into this guy. Double. Where's the max one down here? Double. Oh, they were right next to each other. Huh? Of course they were. Of course they were. Take me back. Min max. Let's just do a quick. I want to just do a quick hunt through here to make sure I haven't missed anything obvious. That's fine. That's fine. Oh, that's interesting. Rebuild buttons. So this actually doesn't work. Actually, it kind of does. Because what's going to happen here? If fractional values are enabled, let's see, when fractional values are enabled, the first rating bar button represents the value min when not selected, and all min plus one values when fully selected. Thus, we start with the value min plus one for the values of the rating bar buttons. Got it. That makes sense. So if min is 1/4, this is interesting. This may not be as easy as I had anticipated. Because that's then going to propagate out. Yeah. I think I just decided that this is more than I want to chew right now, and we will. What I will say is this: if somebody has a desire for min and max to be doubles rather than ints, feel free to open a feature request, because I think it's a good idea. But it also is going to take a little more work in here. There was that obsolete item too. Where was that? Did want to clean that up. Let's see, was it in? No, it was inside of rating bar. No. This one, line 149. Let's see, 149. Take me there. This property is being set here. It's no longer used at the rating. I would have just removed it. So this is public. So we're going to go with obsolete. This will be removed in a future version. And then this one goes here. And then this is private, so we don't care, but these ones are public. So this shows 2 usages. There, which is the one that was flagged, and there. So the pipeline will no, we are not going to suppress it at that range. The pipeline will definitely flag obsolete warnings and fail the build. However, this is one of those cases where I am very okay with suppressing the warning. That way it's clear that these things will be cleaned up. Let's see. So let's just validate that there's no more warnings, but I agree that that should clear them up. And then I'm going to add this to the list of things to be removed. Do I clean up the whole file while I'm in here? I just clean up the whole file. We're gonna let it build first, and then I think we're just gonna clean the whole file up, because I see multiple things I want to clean up. I see expression body members, file scope namespace, and unused usings. Which makes me really excited. And we might go and implement a feature I've been playing with. Okay, so we're gonna so yeah, so that's all of them there. File scope the namespace, expression body, do them all. Yes, apply. Thank you. Normally I do this constructor too, but that just looks funny. So we're not. Okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna put marking reading bar button as obsolete, and then we are going to push this. Yes, yes. So when you open pull requests on GitHub, there's a little checkbox that says allow repository maintainers to push back to your repo, because I just pushed that to a branch in a repo that isn't mine. So it's very nice when people leave that box checked. It lets me help you. Okay, so it's really awesome work. Thank you. Approve. We're gonna slap and approve on there first of all, and then we got to put some labels on this thing. So 1, this is going into the milestone. 2, this is it a visual breaking change? No, because it's new properties. It's not going to change the way anybody's rating bar looks. This definitely deserves release note mentions, and it is definitely an enhancement. So assuming that build passes, and then the last thing I want to do is I want to go and add breaking 5.0 changes. We want to add an item here. Let's see, it's going to be remove rating bar button property. Boom, because that guy is now dead. Okay. Update comment. There we go. Okay, so there's that. That looks great. Okay, so let's go back to pull requests, update with cleanup analyzers. We're going to squash and merge that. That should get the fix in. That should be the completed fix for those analyzer problems. Okay, let's go pick up some more stuff. Why do I have 2 of these? So this is... Hang on, I've got 2 from 2 different people. Oh, interesting. So we've got, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So this one's fairly simple. It just applies the background and foreground based on color zone assist background and foreground. So this one immediately makes me cautious because the color assist background and foreground properties are not well understood. And I picked poor names when I added them. A better name for them would be custom background, custom foreground, because they only apply when the mode is set to custom. Rephrase. They typically only apply when the color zone mode is set to custom. So that's, let's look at these. So what is the default and filled are the same. Options. I think these ones are actually in the milestone, aren't they? Okay, so that one there is just doing the assignment. Let's go here, and I assume this one's probably failing due to the. Oh, this one just failed to a UI test. Oh, interesting. Is this a UI test over the tab control? Oh, it is. Okay then. So there's potentially some work on the test that needs to be done. Let's look at the changes. Well, hang on. There's a video. I suppose I should probably read the text first. The task was painful because of the color zone. I completely agree. The color zone control has been. It is both. A lot of people really like it because all it is this little, basically, panel that has a nice enum that gets you theme colors. That's all it does. That's it. Nothing more. It just, you could in a lot of cases you could get the exact same behavior with a border and setting the right dynamic brush on there. However, the popularity of it has led me to believe that people don't like that. They like to just have this simplistic enum of, yeah, give me my primary theme color, give me my secondary theme color. Like, people like that. It works. The problem is it gets to be a real pain in the butt at times. I've been starting to lean towards pulling it out of some of the other internal templates because it makes everything else hard. Yeah. Okay, the background color was applied to the tab control header and the tab item header. So it was only applied to the tab control header. Make the default style not filled because it didn't quite match the specs. Okay, as you can see in the specs, the foreground tab is only applied to the focus tab. Got it. That makes sense. It was not the case in material design Xaml, so I fixed that. Great. Added the possibility to use custom colors. So this probably picks up the same change as that other one. Created tab assist class because I need to properly know which style is applied in the triggers. Ooh. Want to look at that. That worries me a little bit. Now, I don't necessarily mind attached properties for keeping track of stuff unless they're public, and then that makes me twitch. But if they're internal, then we have the same issue of, well, if somebody wants to copy the template, now they can't. So it just gets weird. Reduce the shadow depth, added examples in the demo. And I don't know if it's the idea to use a color zone system. Yes, I feel like it complicates the style more than anything else. Yes, I agree. I 100% agree. Like I said, aside from the popularity of color zone, I really don't like it that much. I tend to not use it much in my own projects. Okay, so default style. That looks good. Primary light tab, primary mid, dark, secondary filled. I mean, the UI looks correct to me. Placement. Hang on, go back. Is that animation? Okay, that animation's fine. Okay, never mind. Animation's fine. That works. That looks good. Okay, cool. Let's do. So I think this one is probably the one that's going to get to win. I have a sinking suspicion. Yeah, some of these are going to be big. So let's see. Tab assist has filled tab. Okay, so this doesn't bother me too much. This is very similar to the text box assist. We have a similar property for knowing whether you're using a filled text box or not, and then there is the style ends up just toggling that Boolean. So you can get it directly if you want to, or you can go around it. So this doesn't bother me. This doesn't bother me much. My only tiny bit of feedback would be file scope namespace. This is a new class, but that's a nitpicky thing. Okay, so we're gonna briefly scan the demo app side of things. But based on the video, there's not a lot here to see. And the demo app, I'm less concerned with how the demo app looks in the review because I'm gonna check it by running it. As long as there's nothing in here that jumps out as terrifying or scary. Okay, so background set there. Shadow assist moved down and went to depth 2. There is a bit of discussion as well on this, and I welcome people's feedback. Let's see, where is it? It's under elevation. So it started as, so there's the discussion on this issue here on remove obsolete shadow depth, because we just added a bunch of new shadow depths. Because before we had 0 through 5, and 0 was always just off, not there. And none of these are overly special. I think we even reviewed it last week where there was additional drop shadow effects added at these various depths. But then there's this feedback here about adding them's great, but what would be nicer is going one step further and actually implementing this guy. So inside of the material design spec, even though they have this 1DP and all of this, they actually call out elevation as effectively the same way of doing this type of behavior. Now, elevation will commonly include the drop shadow, but it might be nice to be able to go through and bring this in. So yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff in here about feedback on this, and my thoughts on it are, at a minimum, I think changing away from the terminology of shadow and starting to move towards using the terminology of elevation, where shadow is part of that, but then color affects it as well, is probably better. At a bare minimum, anybody looking at the material design spec and then coming to this library, as much as possible, trying to keep those words in sync so that it's easier, just easier to translate. Oh, I read this in the spec, therefore I'm looking for this property here. Can't do that all the time. We don't control all the controls. Built-in WPF stuff is not, like, I can't change their APIs, so, but we can make it prettier. We can make it prettier. So if you have feedback on that, I'd love to hear it. Or if anybody wants to take a crack at it, love to see it. Okay, so take a look here. So this color zone here, yeah, I almost want it. See, the problem is we released a version that used the color zone assist mode in here. And that's a breaking API change if we kill it. Well, So we wouldn't kill the property, obviously, but if we stopped using the attached property inside of the template, that's at minimum a visual breaking change, because it means people were setting it to, like, you know, standard or primary light, and then they wouldn't be getting that behavior anymore. Yeah, see, and I don't mind this tab assist. This is fine. Yeah, I do like the idea. Only for not filled tabs. Okay. Got it. Okay, so that's all good. That's all good. Let's see. Pull request. Oh, I already had it open. We're gonna go to the second one. Check that out. And then I think that other one just finished, didn't it? Did it not? Or was the first one, is it still running? Nope, it finished. Squash merge. Bring that in. Bring that in. Here we go. More awesomeness. Okay, so we are on the fixed tab control. Let's first start by firing up the demo app, and we'll take a look at this. Make sure it looks appropriate. Warning, probably going light name again. So turn your monitor's brightness down. Go in light mode. Go in light mode. After we recompile the universe. Vey, you slow. Okay, I realize I did change it. So let's go with tabs. Boom. Okay. Because that's the other thing, is I do like testing it. It's interesting that for primary light, I'm surprised primary light looks so white. Something seems wrong about this. Because, hold on. See, here's, this is, you can tell. James, the original author of the library, is British. I am not. Guess who named each? Okay. So this one is color zone mode inverted. See, yeah, so here's color zone mode primary light. Primary light in this theme should be a light purple. See, light, mid, dark. Something seems off on this one. Primary light, yeah. So primary light looks like it may be bugged. Because I would have expected that to have a purpley color like the other ones. Okay, secondary, mid, dark, great. This is just default with nothing. Okay, filled style. See, there's light, mid, dark. Makes sense. See, I'm partially, I just like to do it this way so that I can test the... Oh, interesting. Oh. So what you can't tell is when my cursor's over this tab, I'm rolling my mouse wheel. And you'll note my mouse wheel works until I hit the tab. It's because the tab host is a scrollable content. I have mixed opinions about that. I understand that's how the default WPF stuff works, but feels wrong. Feels wrong. Let's check this. You'll also note these ones are put inside of cards, whereas these ones aren't. I don't know if I necessarily have a strong preference either way. That's why you're seeing this small shadow around the edge here. Then custom. What is this? Custom foreground crimson with a card background. Primary hue. See again, you'll note when you use the color zone mode custom, that lights up the custom foreground and backgrounds. White and crimson. Okay, and these all seem to be fairly... I'm curious on that one that... Yeah, I'm pretty sure primary light is bugged. Left placement, right placement, tab placement bottom. And in general, if I was doing a segmented control like this, I would probably end up putting these inside of controls too, because this kind of looks like floating content to me, but depends on your app. Different tab sizes. So what's the change here? Not sure what the change is here from above. Yeah, so this is the scrollable nature of it. So you can do that maneuver. Great. I do wonder if we should have it not suppress or not hijack the mouse wheel and let it flow through, because that is kind of annoying. But like, this is the exact use case for it. That's interesting the way that... Oh, I see that white. I was thinking that was a scroll bar. It's not. It's because tab 1 is the selected tab. I do 3. Three of different width. What's 3? Oh, it's just the header content is a different width. Oh, I get it. Okay, sure. Okay, I mean, this looks good aside from this one. This one, that one interests me. So let's take a look at that. Let's see, tab, Elemental P tab control. So I'm looking for the non-filled. It's default. So, and actually we can probably just hunt the primary light, because I'm going to go with there's a trigger. Interesting that all these triggers exist. These are probably not needed. Probably not needed. Ah ha ha! Wait a minute. Primary dark, primary mid, hue mid foreground brush, light foreground brush. Oh, interesting. Is it because of the coloring? Maybe it's not a bug and it just happens to be because I have... Let's look. I'm now really curious. So sometimes it's just as quick to go right here. Color zone header, grid, probably the border, content presenter, grid. This guy, text block. Show me your foreground. So you're getting material design body inherited. Material design body, color zone assist foreground. So that should not be body. Question is, why is it getting body? Let's keep hunting. So it's not a trigger on primary light. Why? It's time for Mountain Dew. Thank you, Justin. Definitely time for Mountain Dew. I am very confused why. Where are you getting primary body from? It's inherited, so it's coming from somewhere. So that could be. Which one am I inside of here? This is navigation rail. That isn't it. It's not in the field tab. Forces the header foreground to be material design only for not filled tabs. But it's not. Just I'm confused. Color zone. And then show me mode. Show me mode as well. Mode is set to custom. Well, that's interesting. That color zone header. Color zone header. There. So worth noting, inside of Snoop, you can see how there's all of these parens for the type names. If you see something in front of the parens like this, that is the X name of the control. So anything inside of a template or similar that has it, oftentimes if you see that name, it usually is something that you can then hunt in your code. Sometimes not if you're pulling in like a template from an outside library or similar. But if it looks like one of your elements, you can usually hunt that name down, which is another good reason to give your stuff useful names. So color zone header. That's the guy. And this is the default tab item. Color zone header. Foreground, background. I think this is it, right? Color zone header, direct child is a grid. Color zone header, direct child is a ripple. That must not be the same one. Custom, secondary, primary. Ah. It's just missing primary hue light. Light, mid, dark. Ah. There's the bug. That's why I couldn't search it. Because you'll note it's got mid, dark, and then it goes to secondary. It's just missing light. Ah ha 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 ha. Found you. So you need to exist. You need to be primary light, primary hue, light brush. That should now work. That should now work. And I'm wondering, just wondering, if perhaps that's what the UI test was flagging. Which would mean the test did its job. to look at what test that was that failed. There was a failed test on this. And oftentimes these UI tests, because they are somewhat coupled to the template, they do break. On-load theme brushes set. Well, that sounds remarkably suspicious. Tab control tests. So we're gonna run those tests here in a minute. Just because. There, see, that's what I was expecting. A nice light purple, mid purple, and a dark purple. There we go. Okay, so that fixes the bug. Treat! And that's why it wasn't easy to find, because it was absent, not there. Okay, so let's check. Clean up those using statements. You'll note this thing is here. On load, this says primary mid. Well, we'll run this test, but I kind of suspect that what we're going to find is I suspect what we're going to find is that this thing is failing just due to the template being changed up. Thinking. Where are you? There you are. Flash, boom. Okay, so the good news is it failed here, so we can clean up these UI tests as well. For those who are interested, my Xaml test library, if anybody really wants to dive in head first, more importantly, if anybody is a WinUI 3 expert. So this seems here, but I've got this merge WinUI branch, and oh boy, it's getting big. I have gotten a WinUI 3 port working, and I air quote working because it barely starts. It's not great. It compiles and it barely starts, and a lot of the functionality is just straight up not implemented. There's a lot of functionality that WPF gives you that is just absent in WinUI 3. And some stuff that you would think would be easy is not. Now, the nice part is I'm fairly confident I can get at all the functionality I need, because underneath everything is still the same Windows APIs. It's just that WPF wrapped a lot of those, put a really pretty face on them, and surfaced them up to you. WinUI 3, maybe it's done that, maybe it's not. Some stuff is just straight up, there is not an easy way to do it. Things like mucking with the window, not easy. And the idea is with WinUI 3 is they don't want it to be so tightly coupled to Windows like WPF is, because WPF is very tightly coupled to Windows. That's why you don't see like people porting WPF for other operating systems or positions. But why you did see things like the Uno platform take like the UWP flavor of it and port that. Like WPF is really tightly Windows coupled, whereas the other ones are a little bit more extendable. That's the polite way of saying it. But if anyone's interested, it is coming. I do plan on supporting WinUI 3 and then probably considering coming back to doing material design in WinUI 3. Probably. I may poke at it. It seems good. Okay, so let's see. What did this guy fail on? 1 is less than the 4.5 with a tolerance of 0.1. So, okay, so worth noting what these tests are doing. So these things here, this material design spec, material design has a declared aspect ratio between colors. So when you have, just keep cleaning stuff up. When you have two colors for text, there needs to be a particular amount of contrast between the text and its background in order for it to be declared readable. So if you are interested, these are the accessibility API bits. These link out to the wonderful articles that define how this algorithm is expected to work. Don't worry, you don't need to implement it. I've done it for you already. There's a lot of stuff here, and all of the the lovely bits that go into doing it. But the nice part of what this means is, because this is already written, we can write tests that say, hey, by the way, I expect that the foreground and the background of my tabs to have an appropriate contrast ratio, which is great. That's ultimately what you want. What's likely happening here is this thing is getting the, so you can see it actually, so XAML test is actually dumping out a lot of output about all of the methods that it did. So it started off by activating window. Window's already active. Great. It got the element at the property.content. It got the element of tab item, the very first one, and then the first text block inside of it. It also grabbed the selected highlight border, foreground, background, border brush, and then get screenshot was only invoked because the thing failed. So it does take pictures as it goes. That's what this test recorder does. Is if it doesn't get to this line because something else threw an exception, well, the dispose on this guy ends up saving I think it's a PNG or a JPEG. Okay, so this guy here is pulling out two elements inside of it to try to assert that the foreground and the background. So it's saying the underlying color should match the foreground color, which it should. And then it is also saying that there should be an appropriate contrast ratio between the foreground and the background. Which I agree on that as well. And it's also defining it as small text, because the bigger the text is, the less of a contrast ratio you need. And I'm trying to remember, I think there's a font size I think they declared inside of here. Yeah, large text is typically 14 point if bold or 18 point if regular. So if you're wondering whether your text counts as large text or not, that's your guideline. If it's bolded and 14 point, and bear in mind that does assume a Roboto font or Roboto font family. So if it's something else, you might have to adapt a little bit. Okay, so I think what I want to do is actually look at the elements inside of here and figure out if I'm grabbing the right element from the visual tree. So let's do this. If we go into the test base, allow Visual Studio attach, false. So I just don't want it to attach the debugger. So on one hand, sometimes it's nice to step into the material design library in the process that gets started. Other times I want to pause this process and leave the other one running. So that's what that Boolean is for, is whether you want to effectively pause all these things or only pause the test run. So you'll note what's going to happen is that guy's now paused, but this window is now free where I can interact with it and do stuff. Whereas if the debugger was attached to this process as well, I wouldn't be able to do this. Okay, so I want to get into here. What's going on here? So let's see here. What do we got? We have two tabs, tab 1, tab 2. I'm a little surprised this thing is so far. But does tab 1 just not have content? Oh, interesting. Because it's selected, the text is disappearing. What is going on? What is going on here? So this thing accurately called out that the contrast ratio was crap because, well, the thing is just not there. So what is that doing? Let's take a look at here, because this is the text block. Foreground. It's going from body. So it's going from body to primary hue mid, but it's using a filled style. So how is this different from the how is this different from the demo app? Let's fire up the demo app. I'm curious how this differs, because I thought that was fairly similar. Right? Because this, I would have thought, would have matched this setup fairly close. So let's see here. So we've got color zone assist mode, primary mid, agreed. Style, material design, filled tab control, agreed. This one's setting a fixed width, sure. This is almost word for word the exact demo app. But this works and the other one doesn't. That is very interesting to me, because this guy does create a window and does initialize with all of the various components. Is it failing to find one of the styles and falling back or something? That can't be. So this clearly works. Huh? What's going on? What is going on? Okay. Just looking to see if there's anything else included up at the top, like a merge resource dictionary or similar, and there's not. There's really not that much. Not that much here. I'm just gonna format that real quick. But this guy is okay. Well, let's fire this guy up again. Take a closer look. Because when that is set, it should be. Okay, so give me Snoop. Okay. So I actually want to go up to the color zone, and I want to look at mode, and I want to look at foreground. Okay, so that's body. Okay, so I can see a couple things immediately from this. So this guy is being set from a style trigger. And so because this is inside of a tab item, I'm fairly confident that this will be a style trigger inside of the tab item style. Which means if I go here, I want to look at his style, just to be clear on exactly what I'm looking at. This is an implicit style reference. Oh, interesting. I would have expected that to be an explicit reference based on this. This is material design filled tab control. This is good because this is likely to expose potential flaws. Tab item. Don't care about navigation rail. That's an obsolete one that will die later. Okay, so what are you? So one thing I like to do is I like to put these here just so that when I collapse them, I can see what they are. So it's a little aesthetically less pleasing, but it makes reading these a lot easier. Okay. Are you actually used in here? You are. I have a strange suspicion that we have like 3 copies of this floating around, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so filled tab control, but there is only one tab item. So it sets it here. So the other thing that could happen is we could actually do a set, what is it? Property item container style. Like this is a thing, because the tab control is an item container. That's the other way to set it into the tab item. Okay, so that makes some sense. But we're saying the tab item style has a trigger that is likely setting this foreground. So we're going to go to the tab item style, and we're going to ignore the template, and we are looking. Oh, interesting. So you don't have a trigger. Interesting. Is it down? Is it it's not going to be here. I wonder if it's here. Is selected. Has filled tab is false. So I'm curious to look at, let's see, tab assist has, let's go here. Interesting. So that is not set to true. It's set to true up here. It is. Okay, so this guy here, he's checking it. He's checking the has filled tab on the tab item itself. Is that property inherited? Is that how it propagates down? Oh, hush now. Hush now. You can navigate. Trust me. Okay. Nope. That's wrong. Interesting. So this is not inherited. So how does it get down from the tab control to the tab item? Got it. So this reaches up. Finding relative source, ancestor type, framework element. Oh. This is interesting that it's looking up at the framework element. I don't think that's going to work. I think this has to be tab control in order for this to work. Relaunch. I have a suspicion that may do it. See, this is why we write tests. I probably should have been a little more picky about which text block I was pulling, but I think there's probably only one inside of the tab item. Okay, so that clearly didn't work, but let's grab this guy and go up to the tab item. Build. Okay, so that's now appropriately set to true. That's better. Foreground. Not set, not set. Foreground is explicitly being set in a style trigger to empty. So we are looking for, okay, so what is going on here? What is going on here? So we've got root and I'm looking for a foreground setter. Property visibility, border thickness. There's the color zone assist. This is all has filled tab false, so none of these conditions are going to trigger. If none of these conditions trigger, the default should flow through. It's interesting that the color zone background is a set, not foreground, and not color zone assist foreground. And the mode is set to custom, which is probably not. Go here. So, oh, I see. So this guy is always custom, and we're just toggling these guys. So thanks for the streams. Need to go. Happy coding. Thanks, Justin Bieber. Have a good one. Okay, so background is appropriately getting transparent on its binding, but foreground is not, and neither is the foreground assignment. So foreground, why? I'm curious, is this a situation where the window's just not set up appropriately? No, the window is set up appropriately. You have a style, don't you? Yeah, maybe not explicit, but it at least has the foreground set appropriately. So what does the tab control have set? Background, foreground, both of those are set. Foreground is also set. Okay, so color zone assist so at the tab control, the color zone assist properties appear to be correct. That's kind of what we would expect. There's the mid brush, there's the foreground. They're using the right brush names, everything's cool. Okay, we get down to the tab item, and the foreground has mysteriously disappeared. So somewhere up this food chain, well, maybe we start from here and go down. Okay, one level and it immediately drops. But these are bound. Why are these bound like this? Color zone assist mode. I think what we want is these to also be tab control. Because if you do your ancestor type of framework element, you're almost never going to get what you want. Foreground is for the content, not for the header. I think you also want this to be tab control. Okay. Let's stop this and let's run this now here. See, I like having this test. This makes my life much easier. Because now all my tests just basically make up this small little snippet of Xaml that I can just launch and debug whenever I want. which the demo app usually suffices for that, but the demo app serves a slightly different purpose. Its purpose in life is to convey to users what they can do. Ah, see, that now looks correct. That looks better. Now does the test pass? No, still failed. But let's go check the demo app real quick, because I'm not going to eliminate the possibility unavailable. Oh, I disconnected the app too quickly and I shut it down and it died. I might have to just run it without blocking it. Okay, so let's check here. See, this still looks good. And it's using the theme brushes. So the figuring out whether the foreground color should be black or white, or I should say dark or light, is part of the automatic color selection that we do. And then if I go light mode, shield your eyes. I am noticing there is a small bug in the vertical ones. I don't think it's related to this. I'm pretty sure this existed for a while. You'll note the animation of the line on the vertical ones slides over. Whereas on the horizontal ones, the line kind of starts from the middle and expands out. But in both cases, it's kind of starting from here and expanding. And I think the animation on the vertical ones is supposed to also be the line expanding. Again, I'm pretty sure it's been like this since we implemented tab placement. And it's the wrong animation. But it's also probably complicated to do. Okay, so that looks fine. That looks fine. So now we're gonna question the test, because now the test is saying, well, just gonna run the test without debug. Start with that. So run test rather than with a debugger attached. There, test passes. Okay, so test is happy now. That fixes that. Let's just double check the changes. So boom, boom, boom. File contents unchanged. Oh, that was just me formatting. I think I commented before when I was talking code reviews, turn the white space stuff on and off. There it is, unindented. Okay, material design spec, cleared up some usings, test base. I think we're gonna discard this line but keep the rest. Clean up usings. And then this was just adjusting the white space here and adding. So fixed issue with missing primary light, multi-trigger, fixed failing UI test. Okay, let's just double check here, because I think there might have been more than one test that failed. Let's see, so onload theme brush. Just want to make sure there wasn't anything else that failed that I missed. Doesn't look like it. It's passed. One failure there, one failed. Looks like it might have just been that one test. Great. Let's see. Fix failing UI test. And updated relative source bindings to target tab control directly. Okay. What's this? Why is it not in here? Stage, amend. Okay. So that should be everything, right? So there's that. Those are just the relative bindings. Great. Push. Yes. Love it when people enable me to push. Because if they turn that off, then I have to make my own version of the branch and yada, yada, yada. And that just gets yucky. That just gets yucky. Okay, so that cleans that up. That cleans that up. And let's see. I'm going to close this one in favor of 2779. Thank you. Closing this in favor of which there's a few more use cases. We're gonna close that one out. I do appreciate the pull request, and it's a little unusual that I end up with two of these. There was one thing here. Oh yeah. We did look at all of those. We did look at all of those. And it would be possible. Okay, we're going to look at one more thing. I think we can get rid of the attached property. But let's test. Because this is only being used has fill tab here. Just trying to decide if it's worth because this relative source binding is kind of yucky, and I think we can do slightly better. I'm just trying to look at how this is used. So this is just used here, and here is the key things. Because it's used to know whether we add in these trigger conditions or not. Are these triggers? They're control template triggers. Suck. Maybe it's fine. I was going to suggest potentially splitting into two styles and using the item container style. Nah, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine, I suppose. We'll leave it. It's... And I can't think of a cleaner way without duplicating a bunch of stuff. And that just doesn't seem worth it. Okay. So assuming the pipeline passes, we're going to merge that guy in. And then we will be off to the races. And up and running. Boom. Can I set up... I thought there was a way... Let's look this up real quick. I believe GitHub has autocomplete. That way I can queue this about auto merge. Pull requests will merge automatically. Auto merge prevents you from waiting around for requirements to be met, so you can move on to other tasks. That's exactly what we want. Auto merge must be enabled on the repository. How do I turn you on? Let's see. Settings. Under pull requests, select auto merge. Okay. Settings. Do I not have it? Oh. Oh, wait. Here we go. Allow auto merge. Okay, so that is on. Okay, we've turned it on. After you enable auto merge, if someone who does not have write permission to the repository pushes new changes, switches the base branch, auto merge. If a maintainer enables auto merge for pull request from a fork, auto merge will be discarded. I did all this. Auto merge in here. So why do I know C button? So review, merging, auto merge. Merging can be performed automatically. This is confusing me, and I do not understand how to... This is confusing me, and I don't understand how to get the auto merge to work. GitHub, how do it work? How do it work? I have to believe it has something to do with permissions. People with write permissions to a repository can enable auto merge to a pull request. I've got write permissions and enabled auto merge. Optionally, you choose a merge method. Select the enable auto merge drop down menu. So it's like it's supposed to exist here, but I don't see it. Is there a setting because it's coming from a fork? Is that the deal? Rather than an internal branch. Because ones are required. Waits for merge requirements to be met and then merges automatically. Yeah. There a Oh, is it because there's no status checks? Status checks are required. I wonder if that's the kicker, is because there's no status checks, it doesn't know. It doesn't know what needs to happen. I bet you that's what it is, because there are no status checks set. How? Last week for this repository. Was that the save changes? I'm just gonna move this over here real quick. Stand by. Okay. That back. Okay, so now we've got a status check. Now if I go back to here, back to here. Ah ha ha! Enable auto merge squash. Yes. Okay. So that's the kicker. If you want auto merge, you also must set some checks so that it knows. Okay. I kind of want to watch this guy go. Why are you in a group? I approve of auto merge. Mwah. And it works. Except for the fact that then it means I forgot to put it in the milestone. Let's put this as an enhancement. This is probably release notesy. Oh, so good. So good. And then let's make sure both of these issues are in... That's in the milestone. Good. This is not in the milestone. Close issue, because you are now fixed. Okay. That handles a lot of stuff. Oh man, I love. Love that auto merge. Love me some good auto merge. Okay, cool. And then there it kicks off the build on master, and then the nightly release will have all of the changes in here. So I think that gets everything up and running. Okay, cool. I think with that, I'm going to call it. Like I said, I have been burning the candle at both ends and am a little worn out. So I will say happy coding. Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. See everyone next week.